because I found stroke, it is like a very strange thing, because stroke is like, it may be a partial or permanent death of the brain cell, which is caused by abnormal supply of blood in the brain cell. This abnormal, it may be, maybe the blood cell is busted, and so there is accumulation of blood in the brain cells. And the other, the blood is not enough, so there is lack of oxygen in the blood cell, so the brain cells are going to die. It was kind of confusing to me, because this brain, at first it died because it didn't have enough oxygen, and now we took the blood and we took the blood near to it, and it is going to die because abnormal accumulation of the blood. It means it needs blood, but if this blood is in abnormal way, it is not going to help it. Blood is a main food for the brain because it brings oxygen to the brain, but it have to be in a certain system. It have to follow a system in order for it to produce the acquired impact, the expected impact by the brain. So the fact that my brain don't have enough oxygen, and then you take a blood and you pour it in my brain, it is not going to help, because yes, it is blood, yes, it is the food for my brain, but it is not in the system. It means there is a time where things have to follow the system, and this following of the system, it may cause this thing to produce a normality, which that normality, when it's removed, it is going to cause an abrupt, a change of the whole importance of this thing. If you change system, the importance is going to be changed, because whether you give me blood or not you give me blood, I'm a brain, for example, whether you give me blood or you don't give me blood, it means if it is not in a specific method that I receive daily, it is going to affect me negatively. So it have to follow the system that I'm used to in order for it to produce the positive impact to me. The book of Kings, we see that the system was somehow ruined at first, and this accumulation of these errors or faults which was happening from the first king, the second king, the third king, it made a paralysis of these Israelites. It means the kings were there, the laws were there, the God was there, they were still praising God partially, but they did not follow a system, and another impacted the next king, it impacted the next king, and God were giving them some of the lessons on the way. If the king is behaving in a bad way, God is going to punish this king. So this, I take it as a stroke. You get a punishment which you don't know where is it coming from, but it was because of the system which was supposed to feed you. Of course, it feeded you, but not in a way that it was supposed to feed you. So now you are going to produce the negative impact. When we look at the life of King David, he was a man after God's heart. It means he was living according to God's will. He was praising God. He was a good singer. He was a man of war. But when he went out of system, it caused him to go against God. God made him a king of Israel. And this king of Israel, at those times, it was defined by the battles you fight, the battles you win. But for him not going into a war one day or one battle, it caused different thing in a system. It is not what he is used to do. And so he's trying to find something else in order to cover the part of what he was supposed to do. Because his mind now is empty. All he knows is to either praise God or fight the war. And the other thing he knew is to take care of the lambs. Now the lambs are the Israelites, are the people who he is leading. And he's still praising God. Whenever he wins the battle, he prays God. But this time he did not go to the battle. It means all three things have to go together. There must be a blood vessel. This blood vessel is capable enough to carry the blood to the brain. And this blood vessel must have a blood which is flowing. And this blood carries oxygen which is going to feed the brain. So by the moment you remove one thing within this, it is not going to be normal feeding of the brain that was supposed to occur, and you're going to get the stroke because it is out of system. If you remove the blood vessel, it means the blood will be poured in the brain. It will cause a abnormal accumulation of blood in the brain. You are going to get a hemorrhagic stroke. And if you remove blood and the vessels and the oxygen remains, it is not going to travel because the carrier of the oxygen is blood. So you can't carry the oxygen to the brain because you removed the carrier, which is blood. And if you remove oxygen and the blood remains, still it is not going to cause the exactly impact you are supposed to cause to the brain, because the main point of blood going to the brain is to carry oxygen there. So if this blood don't have oxygen, it won't produce the required outcome to the brain. So it is useless. The stroke is going to happen. So to David, he was still doing all the things that God told him to do, but he was idle. Idle mind is the mother of all sins. So by being idle, he was walking, and then he saw this woman, this woman was naked and she was beautiful and attractive, and it made him to sin. The sin did not end there, because he wanted to cover the sin. It ended up to him killing and sinning. And God said, I forgive you, but this will be the death of your family, like your death of your kids. Most of us will look at the first kid of David who died, but we don't look how this death came along. Because if you come to King Solomon, also he was very good king. He was full of wisdom, he was full of knowledge, and he was going after God's instruction. But the sin of him also came from a woman. It means accumulation of this sin is going to affect the next and the next and the next. And without realizing it, it is going to cause paralysis. David loved his son, but because of covering this sin, he was not able. You can't tell your son that you can't marry many women, while meanwhile you yourself, you have more than 5 women. Even though you know that your fall was from owning many women, your fall was from women's temptation. This time you are not able to tell your son, because it is the thing that he's seeing from you. You have 5 women. How can you tell me not to eat the food that you yourself you are eating? How can you convince me that this food has poison while I see you eating it, enjoying it, and you are not getting any negative effect from it? It means I will eat because I saw my father eating. But without knowing that this food I'm eating, it is going to cause a hypertension in me, and this hypertension, it is going to distract my normality of blood vessels, and these blood vessels, when they burst, they are going to cause an abnormal accumulation of blood in the brain, and I will get a stroke, which is 80% I may end up dying. Solomon had learned from his father, but the mother of Solomon was the woman which David sinned with. God forgot about all this, and he did forgive David, and everything was good with David, but he already pressed a consequences of your sin, like your sons are going to die. After losing the first son, David didn't know that I will get another son. He thought maybe I'm done with God because he said my son is going to die. The product is going to die. So because the first product died, it means the curse has ended. No, I'm still going to bear the son to this same woman. But forgetting that what God said, it will cause this son to suffer the consequences he don't know about. Because I'm not able to tell him, I'm not able to guide him regarding this sin that I know it was my fault, because how am I going to tell him that you came from a sin? You came from a sin. Your mother was somebody's wife, and because I sinned and I had to kill that woman, now you are the second child from the brother who was killed because of the sin I did. So I can't tell you, and because I'm not telling you, it is going to cause the whole nation to go into paralysis, because we don't know what caused